Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining me again, for giving me a little bit of your time out of your busy schedule, out of your busy day. I really appreciate it. I want to say this to everybody. We're streaming live on Odyssey right now. I'm looking at it, but here's the problem. As soon as we went live, something broke our link to Odyssey, and it's still just showing a video or a screen or something. Oh, there we are. We're finally live on. Okay. I guess when I posted in the chat that the link was broken, all of a sudden it popped up. I don't know if it was on StreamYard part, but you'll see it if you go over there. Thank you for joining us on Odyssey. Thank you for joining us on Twitter. Thank you for joining us on Rumble. And thank you for joining us on YouTube. We really appreciate it. I know for the last day and a half, there has not been a live show. I did that for a reason. Sometimes it's always, our shows are so information packed and so full of energy and spiritual and powerful. So sometimes it's best to step back and look and see if you're affecting change with other people, to see if they are going to start addressing some of the hardcore issues. And to my surprise, there were a few channels that were doing it, and I was smiling because I said, it has to be my chat. My chat has to be in those other chats telling me, hey, why aren't you saying this, and why, and bringing up questions to the other people in those chats who are putting pressure on these people to address some of the most guarded secrets and the most touchy-feely issues out there. So I want to, first of all, before we get started, I want to thank all of the viewers. And I want to thank each and every one of the people in the chat and the members of the chat. With all humility, thank you so much. It means so much to me as we try to reach out and touch so many people with this small platform, and especially how they continue to mess with the numbers and keep me out of the search engine. But we're going to keep pushing. Now, what's going on here? See, hold on one second. It seems like they took me in. Okay, there we are. Now, shout out to, let's go up a little bit. Let me go back. Shout out to the first person who was in the chat. My girl Holly Horn was in the chat. The first one. Got to give a shout out to my guy Mehdi. Shout out to Mehdi. Shout out to V. I can't pronounce your last name, so I always call you V. I don't want to disrespect you by butchering your name when I'm trying to give you a mad credit. Okay, thank you so much. Net from Canada, Net Rando. What is like up in Canada right now? It should be freezing up there right now. My guy Joel Bradford. Salute, my guy. And for those of you who are joining us and those of you who are going to join the chat, thank you so much. There's so many things going on, and it's so hard to address so many things. But one thing we can see for sure is that there is an absolute decline in American power. When you have Colombia, almost an extension of American power in Latin America, deciding to withdraw, and this is not going to be so focused on one particular subject. Okay, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different issues. So Dave Moss is in the building. David Moss, salute. But when you see a Latin American nation that has been under the thumb of the United States for years, saying we're going to withdraw our ambassadors, and then you see another nation in Latin America. I think 2 Latin American nations withdrew their ambassadors from over in Israel. Shout out to Yamlak. It shows you that America cannot export her version of everything. She cannot impose her power, her will, her dictates on everybody, everywhere anymore. About 20, 30, 40 years ago, she could. She had the resources. She had the levels of power. I mean, the organization, the stuff. She had the military. Without question, America had the number 1 military on the planet. And now her politics, she had a better core of diplomats. But now her policy is based on threats, bribing, color revolutions, assassinations, demonizations, and eventually making war with people. And this cannot be productive in a world that is moving away from threats, in a world that is no longer coward to America's threats and innuendo and accusations and even her covert operations. Nations are now starting to say, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. Enough. Hey, look, we've done this, we've done that for you. When are you going to take the time out to look at our national interests? We've pushed away and pushed aside our national interests for you. And every time we come back to you, you give us the runaround. And then you demonize us. You try to overthrow us. Look what they have done in Turkey. When they felt that Erdogan was a threat, they helped to try to overthrow Erdogan. When they thought that when that didn't work, they bided their time. When the election came around, they vilified, demonized, and tried to isolate Erdogan. And I'm not saying Erdogan is this awesome hell of a world beater. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, look at the policies. Turkey is supposed to be a NATO ally. Turkey is supposed to be the United States' ally. Okay? And prior to the last election, America sanctioned Turkey, their own ally. They tried to destroy the lira, which in turn caused spikes in inflation, which in turn caused people to have to spend more and could save less. They could only save less because they had to spend more. This was an attack on Turkey's economy, its currency, and its so-called independence to get rid of Erdogan, to put into place Davutoglu or someone like that. An ally with friends like this, who needs enemies, right? Because he wouldn't bow to them on the air defense system. Now I want to bring something to your mind on these air defense systems, okay? I'm going to show you how frivolous America's arguments are once you examine them. The main reason, they said, for the sanctioning of Turkey over the air defense systems is because they were incompatible with NATO systems. Mind you, the Eastern NATO nations have Russian MiGs, MiG-29s. Some of them have the Buk systems. Some of them have the Panzer systems, right? Greece has the S-300, a knockdown version, but an S-300 nonetheless. So, and here's something very, very detailed that one must know. This little small detail in there, that remember that Turkey is the only, I would say, Muslim and West Asian, Middle Eastern nation, somewhat, because it's on the cusp of being the Middle East, but it's really in West Asia. You understand what I'm saying? It's the only Ascended Awakening. Shout out. Oh man, I'm missing some stuff. Y'all, I'll be in the chat in a second, okay? Let me finish this thought. So Turkey bowed to the United States dictates because, believe it or not, the first choice of Turkey was the Chinese air defense system. In tests, and Turkey watched this, and Turkey conducted tests, and this is what they cover up in the news. They don't want you to know, okay? They want you to stay ignorant to this and want you to believe that China continues to steal technology and China continues to lag behind the United States. But in reality, when compared to the Patriot systems and the older version of the S-300 systems, the Chinese HQ-9 system outperformed both of them with a 95 or 98% kill ratio. They didn't want you to, so they buried that. That's why Turkey was in talks to not only acquire a whole bunch of systems from China, but China was willing to transfer the technology also. And this is a no-no when America wants to rule you. Because listen, and shout out to my guy over on Rumble, MSG12. Shout out. Thank you for joining the chat. See, when we look back at NATO, one of the most important nations in NATO is Turkey. It has the largest military outside of the United States. It has the largest ground forces, period. And Turkey is a Muslim nation. but it was the only nation, the vital nation of NATO, that did not have its own air defense systems. What does that mean? That means that if they bucked up against their Western suitors, they would not have the wherewithal to defend themselves from the air. And America and NATO could bomb and pummel Turkey into submission. So America wanted to keep that over Turkey. That's why when the Syrian war broke out, Turkey didn't have the wherewithal to, it says, down objects that were coming into Turkey. So Germany and other NATO nations deployed theirs. Now they have the systems. America sold it to them. They didn't sell it to Turkey and did not want to sell it to Turkey until Turkey reached a deal with Russia. Okay. Now here, we're getting to something, because it's a lot that needs to be talked about with this Turkey thing, because I want you to see how frivolous the U.S. argument is for the continued sanctions. What's up, Dave? What's up, my guy? For the frivolous argument that America used to sanction Turkey and to maintain those sanctions and to steal Turkey's money, because most people miss this point. America stole $3 billion from Turkey. You say, how is that possible? Turkey was a part of the F-35 system. Turkey had already prepaid $3 billion to the United States. The United States took the money, kicked Turkey out, and still has not repatriated the money or the funds that they took from Turkey for its buying of the F-35s. Isn't that something? Well, listen here. The crux of the matter of this, what I was getting to, is this. So America says that the S-400 is incompatible with NATO air defense systems and NATO's whole mission and stuff, right? And then they say they don't want to fly their F-15s, the upgraded F-15s, the upgraded F-16s, the F-35s, and the F-22s over Turkish airspace or close to Turkey, because Russian forces can get a lock on that, and then they can formulate a plan on how to stop it, and then it can transmit NATO data to Russia. And most people bought that. Well, that may be legitimate. You know how you do. Most people bought that. But here's the kicker. America deployed, and she has constantly sent F-15s, F-16s, and F-35s, and at some point, a couple of F-22s over Syrian airspace, where Russia has a few batteries of S-400 systems. So if she was so worried about the dissemination of top secret information to Russia via the S-400, then why the hell do you still fly your F-15s, F-16s, F-35s, and F-22s over Syrian airspace where Russia has total air domination? Huh? So the frivolous argument that America uses goes out the window with that, right? What about in Iraq? Iraq purchased some Panzer systems, right? If there was going to be a stealing of U.S. information, the U.S. has multiple bases in Iraq. Iraq is only the size of California, slightly smaller than the size of California. America has more bases in Iraq than she does in the state of California. CC is in the building. Shout out to CC. So, how in the world could you just be concerned with what Turkey has, and it becomes a national security threat if Turkey acquires it, but Iraq has acquired it also? Huh? Or Greece has to work in S-300. Hell, you do war games with the S-300 in Greece. So why are you not concerned about the secret dissemination of top secret information from NATO weapons and warplanes and NATO movements from that? See, the arguments don't hold up when you use common sense. So it has to be something there that you have to look at that has to be more than what they're saying. And what is that? With the acquisition of the S-400 systems, multiple batteries, it gives Turkey some air defense independence. Not saying that the system can't be overwhelmed, but it would be overwhelmed at such a high price of loss of warships, warplanes and everything. They want Turkey under thumb. The only reason Turkey is in NATO, the only reason they still have Turkey is in NATO is to use it as a battering ram against Middle Eastern nations. Also, because of its geopolitical location from the transit from the Mediterranean into the Black Sea. That's what it's used for. So we discard all of that. Shout out to Mehdi. Shout out to Mehdi. Let's see. Let's see. Let me put some stuff up here. Yeah, okay. All right, here we go, right here. I'm gonna put this up there, and I'm gonna say something about this. Hold on one second. Okay. Yamlak says Turkey is only in NATO to prevent a war with Greece. They do not want them. No, they do not want them, but it's not to prevent a war with Greece. It's to use Turkey as a battering ram against the Middle East and North African nation, and also to keep Turkey in check, because Turkey is a significant military power, whether you know this or not. Turkey is a very significant military power, and they can fight like hell, and they know this. So that's why they've been strung along with EU membership. That's why they had never acquired air defense systems from the West. I want you to think about this. If there's a collective defense clause that we're supposed to honor, I want you to have all of the wherewithal to come to my defense, right? Because it might be needed. The air defense systems, the warplanes, the warships, the submarines, everything might be needed. And if you are my ally, treaty bound by the NATO treaty, I want you to be in a position that if somebody comes against me and sneak attacks me, you can rebuff them until I can get on my feet and catch my breath. You understand? That's common sense. You don't want somebody that's that's not an asset to you in this particular area, because it could mean death or destruction of your nation. You don't want a liability. You want an asset. And so there is something to what I'm saying. I want everybody to listen to what I'm saying. And again, I want to thank everybody for joining me, because you didn't have to, but you did. All right. If Turkey is such a beloved NATO alliance member, right, then why? Tell me this. Why is Israel prioritized over a NATO treaty-bound nation? You want to know what I'm talking about? An attack on one is what? Attack on all. Why was that not put into play when Israel attacked that ship that I was telling you about a few years ago? Remember, I'm the one that first started telling you guys about this. Now everybody picked it up and they're talking about it. But I'm the one that started telling you about this, because everybody conveniently forgot that Turkey had people on board of an international ship that was bound for Gaza and bound for the Palestinian with aid on it, and Israeli commandos seized it and killed some Turkish citizens, which is an act of war according to international law. So if that was an act of war, and Turkey is a NATO member, and the United States and European nations are treaty bound to come to its defense, then why the hell was that pushed up under the rug? Because they sure made a lot about when Turkey shot down a Russian warplane and we was on the cusp of World War III. Because they sure made a lot about that. So why was that swept up under the rug? And on top of that, look at me, listen to what I'm saying. If Turkey is such a beloved NATO member, then why is it that the United States kicked Turkey out of the F-35 program? And look, on top of that, to add insult to injury, I'm Turkey, right? I'm talking like I'm Turkey, right? I'm a NATO member in need of these warplanes, but you prioritized Israel to get them, and you gave some to Israel. And then you worked out your paperwork where Israel bought X amount, but they were bought with grants that you gave them. So in reality, you gave it to them for free, while you stole $3 billion from your NATO treaty member nation. and has yet to receive it. And they even stalled the upgrading of the F-16s. You won't even give me F-15s. You won't even allow me to acquire the F-15s because they'll bump up from the F-16s. You're giving me a block, a regurgitated Block 70 F-16. And you've given somebody that's not even a NATO ally F-35s. How is that? How is that? How is that even logical and rational? And you want me to come to your defense whenever you say somebody is a terrorist. Now, remember also, as we talk on this, and we're going to transition a little bit, that Turkey has says that the Kurdish grouping that America is in league with in Syria are part of the, what is the YKK or PYK or something like that. But anyway, it's a outlaw Kurdish militia group that has been deemed as a terrorist organization in some European nations too. And how is it that some European nations have them in parliament? The United States is working with them. Turkey is complaining, hey man, these people are bombing my cities and hit my infrastructure. And I'm telling you, you got to stop protecting them and let me handle them because they're hurting me. No, we're just working with them. We promise you we'll account for all of the weapons. And then when it comes around, oh, we've lost count of the weapons. And then every time you deem somebody a terrorist, you think everybody's supposed to fall in line with what you say in your perspective. This is insanity. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we're looking at the collapse of American power in real terms. No lie. This is real term. When you have Colombia, as I said, a nation that America has so-called been fighting drug wars in for decades and still haven't eradicated any. What was the purpose of her being there? When you have that nation there saying, you know what? No. What's going on here is just outrageous. What's going on here is just outrageous. I can't deal with this anymore. And pulling the ambassador. Then you have another, Bolivia, I believe it was, Bolivia, pulling their ambassador. Then you have other nations are threatening to pull their ambassador. Then you have one of the BRICS nations, South Africa, said, hey, there's been an attempt by certain powers to force other nations in the African Union to accept Israel into the African Union. And South Africa has made it loud and clear that if you allow this, then we will exit the African Union. We will not be a member anymore. You see this. And on top of this, America wanted to demonstrate her power. Listen to me good, because all of this is tied up. Just a few days ago, hold on one second. Something is going on with my StreamYard thing. Hold on. All right, hold on one second. Everybody give me 1 second. Let me play a little clip real quick. And I'm not going to forget my thought. Just let me play a little clip right here. And let me try to straighten this out 1 second because something is not right here. All right. Let's go here. I'll just play this one right here. This is about a 3-minute clip. It'll give me a chance to fix this back here and also to try to get this. And we're coming back to what we're talking about with the situation at hand, with America want everybody to sympathize with her, and South Africa threatening to leave the African Union. And this is a blow to American power because there's something specific that I want to talk about with Russia and what Russia did and what America tried to follow suit did and failed spectacularly internationally, okay? But first, let me go back to this, okay?
Recent events in Niger have U.S. officials deeply concerned. One of those expressing discontent is none other than Deputy Secretary of State Victoria Nuland.
We met with the self-proclaimed Chief of Defense of this operation, General Barmou, and 3 of the colonels supporting him. I will say that these conversations were extremely frank, at the times quite difficult, because again, we were pushing for a negotiated solution. It was not easy to get traction there. They are quite firm in their view on how they want to proceed, and it does not comport with the constitution of Niger.
Yes, the elected government being overthrown is just not okay. Civilized people want the constitutional order to remain intact. Funny that Nuland did not feel that way back in 2014. Remember when she was in Ukraine cheering the Euromaidan protesters who attacked government buildings and toppled the elected president? The hypocrisy was noted by the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson.
Did Victoria Nuland think that it would work with Niger the same way as it was with Ukraine, to put cookies in your bag and make fool of the people? You won't find such banana regime as in Kiev.
Nuland cheered on the violence in 2014, but she had no such sympathy for the people of Donbass. They took up arms as their communities were being shelled and as their language was being outlawed, and she condemned them as violent separatists.
But you cannot compare the situation in Kiev, where now everything that is being held by protesters is being held with licenses and with the agreement of the government of Ukraine, with the agreement of the Rada, or with regular leases from the owners of the building, which is, you cannot compare that to what is happening in eastern Ukraine, where you have armed separatists with balaclavas, carrying very heavy munitions, holding government buildings, refusing to allow monitors in, refusing to allow journalists in, kidnapping journalists in fact.
All throughout the world, the United States has toppled governments, launched coups, and meddled in elections for its own geopolitical ends. No one disputes that. 72 different regime change operations, successful or otherwise, were launched during the Cold War by the United States. Here's what the former CIA director famously said about it.
Have we ever tried to meddle in other countries' elections?
Oh, probably, but it was for the good of the system in order to avoid the communists from taking over. For example, in Europe, in 47, 48, 49, the Greeks and the Italians, we
don't do that
CIA,
now, though. We don't mess around other people's elections,
only for a very good cause.
Can you do that?
And the regime change operations have not stopped. In 2003, the USA invaded Iraq, telling the world lies about weapons of mass destruction. The whole country was destroyed. In 2011, Niger's neighbor, the African country of Libya, was destroyed by a NATO bombing campaign. The bombs came after a failed color revolution by the Western-backed protesters. They couldn't win on their own, so NATO bombs did it for them. Victoria Nuland's sudden pearl clutching and feigned concern about protecting constitutional order should be considered comedy, not serious diplomacy. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
I fixed what I had to fix, but hey, who knew that that would be such a poignant video to play? I just put it on to fill a little gap so that I could do what I had to do. But I see the chat is jumping. Also, shout out to Flying Crocodile 46 in the building. Again, let's look at something. Let's go back to something. First of all, I have to address Woolsey, former CIA director Woolsey. How is it that Laura Ingraham can laugh about the United States interfering in elections around the world in so-called NATO and European nations, right? They're allies. They're laughing about this in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America. They're laughing about this. And this has become a joke, a punchline for them. You saw that, right? But yet all we heard during Hillary Clinton's run for president is Russian interference. Russian interference. How dare Russia? This is a declaration of war. How dare Russia interferes in our political system, in our politics, in our presidential election? Do you see? I am and there is no another, right? I'm exceptional. The same mind of Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. Look what my hands have wrought, right? This is what they're doing. So I just had to address that before I go back to what I was talking about with Russia and the United States. So Russia demonstrated her prowess a few days ago, maybe like less than a week ago, with her war games, her simulated nuclear war games. And it was amazing. From some of the people who I talked to, they were stunned. Russia has the most lethal nuclear potential on the planet. They were stunned. And most modern, right? And what Putin was doing was sending a message to NATO and especially and specifically the United States, hey, that if you continue to escalate and we go here, you can't win, right? So then we fast forward to the United States response, and I want to show you something, man. I'm telling you, the Sadducees, these people, the scribes, the modern day scribes, which is the Western media, the scribes back in biblical and Quranic times, right? They were the mouthpiece for the government and the powerful, right? So modern day, we fast forward to today, and the scribes are the so-called mainstream and some alternative media sites, the mainstream media and the press and everything. Those are the scribes of the empire. So listen to this. They see body excrement, and they know that everybody else knows that that's poo-poo, right? But yet they say, hold on one second, and they put a curtain up, and they drop sprinkles on it and put it on the cone and say, hey, this is a new flavor of ice cream, right? You taste it. It's not poo-poo anymore. It's ice cream. This is what they're feeding to you as they see their power wane. And then I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. There's an article that came out. Where is that article? Boom, 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 right here. Now, remember what I just told you. Nothing is done isolated. All of this stuff is connected. We see Russia demonstrating her nuclear prowess with these war games and simulated nuclear strikes with the new nuclear weapons that they have, right? The new missiles, those powerful missiles. Then the United States followed suit yesterday. And the name of this article, and this is you can pick this up, is on The Drive, like driving a car.com, thedrive.com, okay? And the name of the article is titled, Minuteman III ballistic missile self-destructs during test launch. You hear me? This is supposed to be the demonstration of American supremacy here. We can not only match you, Russia, but our Minuteman missile is the most powerful missile. Listen, after Russia did what it did, America wanted to demonstrate that she had the power too. So she announced a test flight of her Minuteman III ballistic missile. This is the third edition of the intercontinental ballistic missile system that America has, okay? And this is what it says. I'm just reading this right now. When I was telling you about it, I was looking over here and I was trying to catch a few words of it. And it says this. Though the failure of a Minuteman III missile is concerning, it is precisely why these tests are routinely carried out. Now, think about if that would have been a Russian Satan missile misfiring or crashing. We told you that the Russians were incompetent. We told you that their technology was inferior to ours. But because this was a Minuteman III, the missile that the United States is using as a retaliatory missile strike on vehicle or a preemptive strike vehicle for nuclear war has failed. And they want to put icing on the turd by telling you, hey, it's okay. That's why we do missile tests. All right? Now look, let's go a little bit. Let me read the first sentence of the thing, see what they're talking about. The U.S. Air Force says an unarmed LGM-30G Minuteman III missile, intercontinental ballistic missile, was safely terminated. Not that it failed. Not that it had problems. Not that there was a shortage or there was a problem with the technology. They terminated it. That means that what they're conveying to you is that they had control over the whole situation. That they chose to do this. You understand? That's what they're trying to convey to you. Not that this thing was out of their control, so at the last minute, they did whatever they could, right, to terminate the mission so that as Russia and China is watching from space, no more secrets of their shortcomings would be leaked. You understand? See how they spin it around and they twist it and have you believe in something that's totally opposite. This is why I keep telling you that this is a bizarro world. Up is down, in is out, right is wrong. It is absolutely insane. And the people keep falling for the okie doke every single time. And it says, let me reread that. The U.S. Air Force says an unarmed Minuteman III, I'm just going to say Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, was safely terminated over the Pacific Ocean after an unspecified anomaly. An anomaly, right? Man, I tell you, hold on one second, y'all. Hold on. These people are something else. But if you don't know, all right, we're going to go to the dictionary, okay? We're going to see what anomaly means. Anomaly is a noun, and it means something that deviates from what is standard, normal, or expected. Oddity, peculiarity, abnormality, irregularity, inconsistency, right? So there's something there that they're trying to hide from you. And they know that Russia and China was picking up on it through their satellite-based forensic assets, okay? They have, like we have forensic files and stuff. They have geopolitical forensic scientists that do the analyzing of pictures and real-time data. This is what I'm telling you, that they don't want you to know, okay? And so they knew that China and Russia was looking, and maybe Iran and North Korea were looking. And look what it says. Man, I tell you what. An anomaly occurred during a routine test lunch overnight. A delegation from South Korea. See, I brought up North Korea. You see that? So if a delegation from South Korea was on hand and was looking, guess who was looking to? North Korea. All right. And guess who borders North Korea? And we know that South Korea borders North Korea from the south, and we know that who borders North Korea from the north? Russia and China. Okay. Now look, it says a delegation from South Korea also observed this particular test in line with a new bilateral strategic cooperation agreement the country signed with the United States earlier this year. Now, what is that showing us? That look, while her political clout is in decline, her technological supremacy is also in decline. And here is something. There was a report by U.S. News and World Report said that Russia has surpassed the United States to become the most powerful military in the world. It is the most powerful, according to a U.S. organization, a U.S. think tank. The United States is not the superior military force anymore. They are not. Now, what does that signify? Remember the show I did that we're number one no more? The show, I advise all you to go back and look at that show I did. We're number one no more. It's only about 45 minutes to an hour. You have time to do it. And then we go through video proof. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Give me 1 second, everybody. Yes. I'm live on the air. Yeah. All right, baby. All right. Bye-bye. My daughter told me everybody be blessed. She told me to tell everybody that's watching to be blessed. She's at work right now. So I'm conveying her message to you. Okay. Anyway. Oh, shout out to the chat. Everybody's in the chat. Oh man, I've been missing this. So hold on. Guys, I apologize. I have not been in the chat too much, but I will be. All right. Have a good night, baby. Call me when you get settled in. My wife is leaving for work also. So my daughter's at work. My wife is leaving for work. And me and my son just got in not too long ago. So that's how that goes. And a family will see this is real. But anyway, everybody check this out. So let me get to another point that I think is more poignant. We see that America technologically is losing her position. As a matter of fact, there's an article out. I got it in my email saying that they did a report on the Chinese chip. You know how America thought that China couldn't produce the chip, and then we find out that China has a chip that's only like 3 to 5 years behind. Well, guess what? The where is it? Let's see. I can bring it up for you. I'm not gonna put the article up, but I'm going to look and see if I can find this real quick because I want to show you the decline of American power. Okay, you've got to understand all of this stuff is happening right here, right now, and it is by no coincidence that it's happening all at the same time. All right, where is it at? All right. There's an article out that's talking about how the Chinese scientists have created a faster and more efficient chip using AI. But here is something. Let's see. Where's that article? Give me 1 second. Where's that article at? Because I did want to share it with you guys today anyhow. So give me a second. Where is it at? I keep so many things. There it is. There it is. So I told you. I keep all of this stuff so I can prove it to you. And I can show you, because that's what we need. We need proof. If you can't prove it, discard it. So look, there is an article on WCCFtech.com. WCCFtech.com. And the title of the article is former TSMC, which is the largest producer of the most advanced microchips on the planet, right? This is what it says. Former TSMC IBM exec says Huawei can make even more advanced 5 nanometer chips. The very thing that the United States is trying to limit their capability of, those people who work for the company that has almost had a monopoly on those chips came to the realization that the Chinese can produce these things now. And it's futile for America to invest tens of billions of dollars to stop it when they've already demonstrated that they had the capability to do it. So now we're looking at that. America cannot restrain China with that, okay? We're looking at that. And then we're looking at people stepping away from her. Then we're looking at the building up of the BRICS or the global order outside of the United States. And then we're looking at nation after nation challenging America, not just challenging America, but challenging all of the places where she dominated, all of the levels of power that she used to have a monopoly on. This shows you beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is the decline of the American empire. This is the decline of the American empire. Let me go to the chat real quick. And so for those of you who may be listening, from each platform, I go from the chat, I go, let's see. I don't like what the guy did with his mouth. Very disgusting. What guy? MSG12. What guy are you referring to? Please let me know in the chat over on Rumble. Please let me know what guy you're talking about. And let me go to the chat real quick. All right. And guys, everybody, please forgive me. I'm trying to work all of this, and I'm trying to get your comments at the same time. Plus, stay attuned to what's going on in the news. We got a super sticker up in here. V is in the building. Thank you, V. Shout out. Thank you for the super sticker. All right. MSG12, please. Could you let me know what you're talking about when you said I don't like what the guy did with his mouth? Very disturbing. I don't get that. But anyway, until he responds, I'll continue on this, but I'll give you time to respond. Let's see. We go to Medi. Oh, Perseverance Chameleon is in the building. What's up? It says, and that is what this is all about. China can mass produce 5 nano chip much cheaper than the US can or would sell it for. Absolutely. But that's not it. Listen, again, I know it's hard for some people to wrap their minds around. I'm not talking about you, Midi. I'm not talking about it's hard for you. I'm just talking in general. So it's hard for the Western world to grasp that nations can produce what they produce. Because you got to understand that the West is colonial West. So they are used to being able to dictate and then disseminate what they want. But when a nation is able to produce for themselves, I want you to think about the miracle that China pulled off. And this in itself should have gave the United States and the Western world pause. Okay. They had multiple 5-year plans. China plans like 5-year trenches, excuse me. So listen, to eradicate poverty, China is a nation of 100 1 billion 400. But let's say because it's like 1 billion 800 or 1 billion 900 and some million people. So let's just say 500 billion people. 1.5 billion people. Excuse me. Okay, it's a nation of 1.5 billion people. 1.48, 1.49. We round it to the nearest, so that's 1.5 billion. They did what no nation in the annals of history in the last 6,000 years have been able to accomplish. And yet nobody talks about it. All we talk about is the shortcomings of everybody. We don't focus on the progress. We don't focus on the accomplishments. We don't. Oh, flying crocodile is over there too. Shut up. We don't focus on that. And if we can focus, listen, if you study the person, what they tell you, study a person, not just their failures, but their successes, and vice versa. And when you study a person's failures and successes, you can get something out of that that will be meaningful for your life that you can use in your quest to be successful, right? But the West doesn't do that. I want you to understand that China took 850 million people who were living in the countryside, who had no education, who were living below the poverty rate, and they moved them to the middle class. Do you understand what kind of miracle that is? That is the entire population of the European Union and then some. 850 million people from poverty to middle class. And the West keeps harping on communism. Oh, this is not really capitalism. I don't care what it is. If it removes poverty from people, if it educates and enlightens people, then maybe you can extract something, get your mind off the name and extract the benefits from what they are doing so that it can benefit you and your kind. I'm not saying adopt the communist system. I'm saying adopt traits that were the successful traits that helped them extricate 850 million people from poverty and putting them into the middle class. That's almost 3 times the population of America. And here in America, they're having problems eradicating homelessness. You think about that. And by the way, I want to make a correction on my show a few days ago. I said that the CBO office came up with that estimate. It was not the CBO office, to my understanding. When I look back on my notes and I looked in there, it was the almost like the HUD, something like that. The HUD, maybe I can pull it up real quick. But it was a government administration that came up with what it would take to eradicate homelessness. Okay, let's see. And if I don't put it up on this go around, I'll make sure I have it up for everybody next go. Boom, boom, I got it. I got it. It was the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, yeah. It says, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would cost $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. Government figure. China has eradicated poverty for 850 million people. That's almost 3 times the United States population. And all you can think about is vilifying and demonizing. To me, that sounds like jealousy. To me, that sounds like envy. Because when you did it, and you had the industrial strength and the industrial backbone, you called yourself the beacon of the world, the light, that nation that sitteth upon the hill, that exceptional nation. But now somebody else has taken your blueprint and then magnified it by 30 times and did better with it. And now all you can do is point out their shortcomings instead of looking at both shortcomings and their successes and extricating the lessons from both so that it can benefit you to progress and grow further. That's childishness. That is absolute childishness, jealousy, pettiness, and a little bit of racism in there too, because China is not a Western nation. Okay? It is true now. I'm telling you this stuff. These people in office act like children. Well, I wouldn't say children because there's a lot of children that act better than them. And there's a lot of children that act more disciplined than they are. Right? What did Holly Horn say? Janet Yellen says we can afford it. You can afford 2 wars. You can afford it, yet your treasury bonds sale failed, right? The United States has had multiple bond failures when they tried to sell their bonds, and the Fed had to take up the slack and buy the majority, if not all, of the U.S. bonds and most of their treasury sales in recent history. Now, again, I say that equates to the crackhead smoking his own crack and then telling everybody that he's pushing his product. Sooner or later, when he's looking decrepit, lips all dried up, and begging you for some and stealing, then you realize, hey, the drug dealer is no longer the drug dealer. The drug dealer is the addict. That's the sign. That's what we're looking at with the Fed in the U.S. That's what we're looking with the ECB, the European Central Bank, and the European Union. The dealers have become the crack addicts. And we can see this by the deindustrialization of America, the deindustrialization of Europe, right? The growing poverty, homelessness, inequality, and the total disregard and disrespect for the people who are governed by these lunatics. Right? You know I'm telling you guys the truth. All right? Let's see. Let's go back here. Let me check and see if I missed anything. So I told you guys, whenever I tell you something, I can prove it. I can go to it. I can point to it. We can touch it, feel it, see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, read it. I'm not telling you my opinion on these matters that are of the utmost importance. I want to pull out facts for you, and I give you resources so that you can go find them for yourself. Because this is the best way for a person to better themselves, to give them the tools needed, show them how to use the tools to benefit them, and then allow them to sink or swim. You either go and check for yourself or you take somebody's word for it. And if you take somebody's word for it without examining it, then it's on you if you have not gotten the truth. Let's see. Let's go back in here. Perseverance Chameleon says, "What's up, Rashid? What's up? What's up? Glad to make your excellent show. Thank you. It's excellent only because of the grace of God and only because of the chat and the viewers. We build off of each other. We learn from each other. We teach each other, you know, and the passion, the spirit, the drive that's in this small platform is enough to light the world up, you know. And I thank each and every one of you for giving me your time. From the bottom of my heart and the depths of my soul, thank you, because you didn't have to come here. You did not have to watch. You didn't have to participate. You didn't have to hit the like or the dislike button. You didn't have to do any of that, but you chose to do that. And for that, I am very appreciative. You know, I count all my blessings because one day I won't be here to count them. So I want to give everybody their flowers now. God is good all the time, through the good and the bad. Let's see. Let me go to Mehdi real quick. Mehdi says, yup, and that is why U.S. production industries were sold by Americans to the Chinese in the 1990s. We assumed we could just buy what we needed, learn to code. Do you remember that? Hey, Mehdi. Greed. These people will sell their mother for an extra $6. Greed. I want you to think about for those of you who are listening, I want you to think about this. If you don't think the Western world is predicated and built upon greed, I want you to look at this. How much wealth is enough wealth? You have these people saying that if I can make $1 million, I'll be okay. They get the million. Oh, that's not enough. They start worrying about stuff because they start living above what they were normally living. Then they want 10. They get 10 million. 10 is not enough. So they want 50 million. Now, all the while, they're tens of millions of people that are barely making it off $20,000 or $30,000 or less. And they're screaming because they're only making 50 million. All right. Then they get to it 100 million. That's never enough because their lifestyle goes up. Then they get to the billions. You can't possibly spend that money. And how in good consciousness could you have $100 billion? And then you see so many people with so few. And it doesn't bother you in the least. Well, I made my fortune. They should make theirs. It does not bother you in the least that you can take a fraction of what you have and give people new hope, new life. It doesn't bother you. So how much is enough? Oh, I'm worth two. They want to be worth something. And here's the problem with want to calculate your worth in dollar denomination, in euro denomination, in pound denomination, in currency denomination. Here's the bad part about counting your wealth in those denominations. When you have a market crash, when the economies collapse, when we have a global meltdown, and your euro, your pound, your dollar, or whatsoever you have is worth less, then that means you are worth less, right? So you shouldn't put your value into the dollar. You are so much more than the denomination that they put on you. And don't let them constrain you and confine you to issuing your value in dollar terms. Because life is priceless, first of all. So you can never print out enough dollars, pounds, or euros for life. Right? And all of these people who are alive have the potential to affect change. And one out of all of these people can produce something that can change history, which would be priceless. So I think more people should invest in the potential of people, the potential to do better, to live better, to build better, instead of always accumulating money that will lose its value eventually. I'm not saying don't have money. We need money. Everything is real. But don't let you be measured or your self-worth be measured in dollar, euro, pounds, or whatsoever terms, okay? Because you're much more than that. You're much more than that. God didn't make you like that. And so don't you confine yourself to the carnal things or to what these people are telling you. All right? So let's go here. Let's see. All right. Mehdi says, then he went in and says, then the Chinese bought up the U.S. steel industry and made it to the point U.S. foundries closed because they could not compete. Now, let me tell you about this, because a lot of this stuff, and you might see me do this, is because that air is blowing right down on my nose. I mean, right down on my nose. And and my hair is standing up on my nose or whatever. So you might see me keep doing this, but it's blowing right down on me. But anyway, let me tell you about this. With this Chinese caused the collapse or close down all these steel mills. That in a way that's right, but in a way that's not. Listen, we have to go all the way back to the 60s to understand what really took place. Okay, we know that in the 80s, you know, the 70s, the 80s, and stuff like that, that there was a transition from American manufacturing to transitioning to put factories over in Asia, right? But this was not done because America's benevolence, and not even really fully done because of American greed, which it was in part American greed. We have to go back. In the 60s, I told you this, I told everybody on the show, in the 60s, America got caught with her hand in the cookie jar in the 60s. So she did not have the level of commodities or precious metals that she needed because she had been in wars and stuff like that. And she, you know, and she continued to spend, she continued to do everything. So she was robbing her currency of the backing of the commodity backing of the currency. Therefore, you started seeing nickels and dimes and quarters and half dollars and silver dollars lose their value because America kept extracting the silver out of them, right? And so by 1965, no dime or no quarter had any silver in it. The half dollar and the silver dollar still had some up until 1970. Here it is. So little bit by little bit, we're on that march to 71, the depegging from the dollar. But first, it was a depegging from the silver that nobody talks about. And so this has everything to do with the industries that Mehdi is talking about, okay? So when we reach 70, America's she's perplexed because she's robbing her currency. And so what's happening is now she's distracting the nations with other stuff, political turmoil and all this other stuff. And Charles de Gaulle, a U.S. and Western ally, was watching this, and other nations were watching it. But de Gaulle, he really didn't like some of the people in America. So de Gaulle wanted an independent France, right? And he didn't like being under the thumb of America. I think de Gaulle was a general or admiral, and then he became the leader of France, all right? And de Gaulle started seeing that her spending was unbridled, unstoppable. I mean, she was spending left and right, and they were crunching numbers and was like, dang, how can America keep doing this? And she's bagging her money by gold and silver. And so they called America on this. Everything I'm saying, go back and look. Go and see if I'm lying. And Richard Nixon said, and that's why he mounted the rostrum and said, America, her dollar is as good as gold. And Charles de Gaulle said to him, well, then if that's the case, then give us our gold then. Because you keep spending, and we know that you don't have that amount of gold and silver to be spending into oblivion. And this is what caused America to go into a tailspin and Richard Nixon to get back on the on television to try to settle the markets and try to pretend like there was nothing going on as America depeg, and it was a benefit to America. I want you to go back and look at that 2-minute or 3-minute clip of Richard Nixon, and let me see if I can pull it up for you guys real quick. Okay, I'm gonna go to YouTube real quick, see if I can pull it up for you guys. Give me 1 second, everybody. I don't think I'm signed into YouTube on this computer. This is a new computer, so I don't think I'm signed in. Everybody, hold on. Give me a second. Let's see. Give me a second. What is Richard Nixon? Dollar. What is it on? Let me see if I just put that in there. Would it come up? Ha! I found one of them. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna pull this up, okay? Everybody, give me a second. I'm gonna see if this is the one. I want you to understand something. What I'm telling you is the truth. So he had to go back and try to settle the world markets. And he tried to make it seem as though it was a benefit. I want you to think about something. That's what criminals do. When they rob you, I'm not gonna kill you. Just give me this. They're trying to make it seem like it's a benefit that they're robbing you. It's a benefit to them robbing you. I'm not gonna take your life. I'm gonna take your money, but I'm not gonna take your life. That's what crooks do. Right? And so he tried to make it seem as though what he was doing was in the greater interest of America. He did not want to level with the American people and tell them that they had spent the gold that was in Fort Knox, the silver that was in Fort Knox. He didn't want to level with the people and tell them that, hey, France and other nations are starting to get worried and stampede out of the dollar. So we need to depeg from the dollar and try to focus on us real quick and then go back to pegging our currency to the dollar. He didn't want to do that because he was a liar, a thief. How do you, these people in office are sociopaths. Okay? But I want to see if this is the one. So give me a second. I'm going to see if I can bring this up. Oh, all right. Share. Let me look on my page and see if it's made up there. All right. Here it comes. This should be coming up. Okay. Now, give me a second. Let's see if this is the speak. I'm going to try. I believe this is the one. The one that I had was this one. So we're going to go for the 4-minute one, okay? I want you to listen to this real quick as I bring this up on your screen. This should work. This should work.
The third indispensable element in building the new prosperity is closely related to creating new jobs and halting inflation. We must protect the position of the American dollar as a pillar of monetary stability around the world. In the past 7 years, there's been an average of one international monetary crisis every year. Now, who gains from these crises? Not the working man, not the investor, not the real producers of wealth. The gainers are the international money speculators. Because they thrive on crises, they help to create them. In recent weeks, the speculators have been waging an all-out war on the American dollar. The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other.
Boom, stop right there. Now I want you to see something, okay? You hear what he said? He said he wanted to stop the speculators. Let me rewind something because I want you to hear him very well. This is that sleight of hand. This is what the thief does. This is what the robber does. This is what the rapist does when he tries to console the victim after raping or during the rape, okay? What he is trying to tell you is that by removing the gold backing, it stabilized the dollar. It stopped the speculators. I'm telling you. Listen to what he just said. Let me go back to this real quick, okay? Because some people looked at this and they never really paid attention to it. So I'm going to rewind it just a little bit, and I want you to listen to him very well, okay?
The gainers are the international money speculators. Because they thrive on crises, they help to create them. In recent weeks, the speculators have been waging an all-out war on the American dollar. The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Boom, right there. So, let me move this. I'll bring it back up if I need to, but I'll move it up the screen for a minute. So, he said he directed the secretary to suspend convertibility of the dollar into gold or any other commodities, right? To defend it against speculators and to make the dollar strong. Now, I know those of you who are looking are not from Rumper Room. I know that you didn't come out of Rumper Room, right? As we used to say when we were kids. I know you're not out of Rumper Room, are you? This man just pulled a fast one on the entire globe. I'm going to defend the dollar from speculation, and I'm going to secure American interests by removing the base from which the dollar was made or stood on. So what I'm saying is, we're in this house. This house is stable, but for me to defend my house against outside threats, I'm going to have somebody to come and remove the whole base of the house and the load bearing pillar in my house, and then the house will be safe and sound. Does that make any sense to you? Huh? It doesn't make any sense to you because it's an outright lie. And common sense tells you it's an outright lie. You remove the base, you remove the load-bearing wall, guess what happens? The house becomes unstable, and you cannot live in the house without threat of it falling down on you and killing you, right? Well, we're living in the aftermath of that right now, with the dollar being challenged and the dollar collapsing. Because the base of it was removed. We're going back to something real quick. I had to lay that down as I'm talking to you about what Medic says. So look, in 71, there was a pressing threat and it was going to expose the United States to have little to no gold, even though the United States says it has 8,000 tons of gold. It hasn't been audited, right? So it was going to prove that the United States coffers was kind of empty. So Richard Nixon and war criminal Henry Kissinger and a couple other people came up, hey man, we got to find a way to get around this. So they would shake, rattle, and rolling. So they come up with the petrodollar. If we can go and make a deal and have them to recycle the dollars, we can still run up deficits, and everybody has to buy the stuff here and there with dollars. So we'll get a cut. We'll be able to influence policies in these nations, and we'll be able to stay as the preeminent nation. But here's the problem. We need to find a way to produce stuff cheaper for our corporations. So they looked at India. They already had this reservations about China. They looked around all these nations, and the most skilled workers that they could find. They had the most skilled workers for the cheapest price, and they could do certain jobs that other people at the time couldn't be, and they didn't have to worry about all of the regulations that came with the Western world. So they went and struck. Not only in the 71 did they strike a deal with Saudi Arabia, which caused what we call the petrodollar, right? Which cemented the United States dollar even after depegging from gold. But later on, they struck a deal with China to start removing the industrial base. It wasn't that China came seeking America. The U.S. needed this because the economy was in shambles. And they were masking this, and they needed a way to produce stuff, well, pretend like they produce things, and they needed a way to, because corporations needs come before anybody. And so they needed for the corporations to make the biggest splash, so they went to China. China gets blamed for this, but China didn't come seeking the jobs. China didn't come and take the corporation. They went over there and they struck deals with the Chinese because if China needed the United States, China would have come here and would have struck up deals here to the U.S. benefit. But China struck up deals when the United States came there. These were win-win beneficial deals. It was just that the United States was so capitalistic that those who gained from it became greedy and became powerful. And they didn't care about the little man and woman in the mud. So China started focusing on technology, learning how to build, learning how, not just low end, because at first they started with low end. And now they started rising up because they were unified. And they no longer wanted to be used as the manufacturing, I wouldn't say manufacturing, but as the lapdog for the West. So it's not China's fault, it's the U.S.'s fault. They will sell their mother for $2, for $6, for 50 cents more. Let's go further. Let's see, hold on one second. Somebody's putting something in the chat over here. Let me see something. Wage stagnant. Okay, thank you. I'm looking at it right now. MS, let me see. MSG12. I'm looking at your link. Thank you. Let's go here. Let me go back here. It says, and let me address something else. And so what they do for the people that are hurting, what they do, they use the Chinese as a battering ram, as like whenever the corporations want to get the blame off of them, they find somebody else, and what they do, they magnify it, whether it's cultural, racial, or whatever, or like gender or whatever. They magnify that so that you can have somebody to be mad at instead of the people who actually did the ripping off, the raping, the robbing, and the stealing. Look, what everybody should be mad at is this. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and all of those countries, all those banks robbed America multiple times. And not only were they the cause of the 2007, 2008 meltdown, but for this, none of them went to jail, and they were rewarded trillions of dollars from the government, while you got $600 or $1,200. The same banks and institutions that robbed the corporation and robbed the taxpayer and robbed the government of America were rewarded with hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars more after the robbery. That's where your anger should be at, right? Let's see. It says, Perseverance says, the West cannot fathom excellence outside itself. Absolutely. It cannot understand how China managed to eradicate poverty. You know why? Because I keep telling you, it goes back to a little hint of racism. They don't believe anybody outside of the West can do anything. They don't. And I'm not saying the people, I'm talking about the masses of the government and the heads of the corporations. Okay. Let's see. Flying Crocodile says, Rashid has nailed that. China has bought more people out of poverty than the rest of the world combined. Absolutely. Anybody can Google what I'm saying. And instead of America looking and saying, we're suffering from massive homelessness, massive poverty, cultural divide, racial divide, instead of us looking at how, instead of trying to focus on China, the Uyghurs, and China has built up that area where the Uyghurs are, right? It doesn't look like the south side of Chicago. It doesn't look like the shanty town around on the other side of town from me. It doesn't look like the ghettos and stuff. They built it up, right? While lecturing China on the Uyghurs, where China has built up the area where the Uyghurs live, America neglects her own home. And then the people that are suffering direct their anger at each other because of ignorance, because of propaganda constantly over and over and over and over again. And the rich get richer, the powerful stay powerful, and the poor stay poor, incarcerated, and dead. It says, MZ says, fire on top of fire on top of fire. Let's see, Perseverance says, this is down to USA ideology of their racial superiority. Absolutely. The Western world is like that. The United States specifically, but the Western world in general. Listen, you know it's a bit of something. Look how they, what do you think they'll do to somebody of color? Look what they did to the Irish. Look at what they've done to Russia. Look at what they've done to Ukraine. Let's look at this. Let's not even look at Africa for a minute. Let's not look at Latin America for a minute. Let's not look at the Asian nations that were conquered and colonized. Look at Europe. These people in power have no regards for life or security of life. All they think about is profit. And they'll kill off people and kill off nations to maintain their wealth. Let's see. It's my guy Medi says, preach. And if I ever bring this up, even the people I always agree with, they get pissed. Hey, there's an old saying in my neighborhood from my mom. All right. And the old saying is this. Are you ready? Are you ready? So when you said they always get pissed, it's better to get pissed than get pissed on. And you should tell them that. So and then that'll make them pause for a minute. Let's see. Oh yeah. Let me put this up here. Flying Crocodile 46 says the U.S. shipped all the steel from the 911 rubble to China as a priority for smelting to destroy the evidence of nanothermite particles. Crime scene cleaned before any evidence was collected. Hey, you guys, on that note right there, excuse me. If you go to my earlier shows with the co-founder, I've done multiple interviews with both founders of the but is the Scholars for 911 Truth. Kevin Barrett, I talked to him. I hadn't talked to him in a while, but he and I we're real okay with each other. And Jim Fetzer, he and I hadn't talked to him in a while too. But if you go and look at some of those interviews that I've done with them, so, as a matter of fact, a couple of them got me suspended off YouTube. So, and there's still some that are not on YouTube that are on Patreon, older ones of them, talking about these very issues. These are Scholars for 911 Truth. I advise everybody, if you can, to check out the ones on YouTube and on Patreon. Okay, seriously. Let's see. Perseverance says they're getting high of their own supply. Of course they are. They went from owning the block and riding in their Cadillacs and their Bentleys and their Bugattis to catching the bus, scratching all while they're on the bus, wiping the crust off the white lips, because they went from the dope dealer to the dope smoker, according to the ECB and the Fed. These two are the global dope pushers. Whenever they inject their currencies into the economies, they're destroying the economies. They're destroying the independence and the purchasing powers of their own constituents in their own nation. And they want to tell you that it's all good. You see what Richard Nixon did? I didn't lie about it. He robbed the currency of his backing and then tried to make you believe that what he did was for your benefit. Somebody's peeing out off the roof. You saying, man, what is this? Oh, it's raining. You don't see rain nowhere else, just right there over your head. They want you to believe that it's rain. They want to pee on you and make you believe that it's a hurricane outside. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. Flying Crocodile says, fact-based analysis is why I watch you, Rashid. And it's always going to be like that. Facts over feelings. Facts over feelings. And like, what was it? Jack Nicholson say, some people, you can't handle the truth, right? A lot of them can't handle the truth. But we're going to still dish it out because the truth will prevail over any and everything. Let's see. It's a Google picture of a chart. Yeah, I see it. MSG12. I see it. Let's go here. China was buying U.S. scrap steel at 4 times the price it would make in the U.S. Entire escape yards are owned. Scrap, I think you mean scrap. I know how autocorrect does. Scrap yards are owned by China in the U.S. and they do not even know it. Let's see. That was Mehdi said that. And I said somebody else, but that was Mehdi that put that up there. And Flying Crocodile says the most amazingly dumb thing they sold while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State was nearly all of the U.S. uranium holdings to Russia. Now let me address that right there. Okay. Most people don't understand this. This is something I told you. These people are insane. Okay. America is in dire need of new infrastructure, be it energy or whatever, right? Roads or whatever. They sanctioned Russia. America became the largest during the sanction, and right now, America became the largest buyer of Russian oil, Russian gas, and other Russian products that they sanctioned everybody else on. But here's the kicker. And you can Google this. As a matter of fact, I did an article a long time ago, maybe about last year sometimes, and on Patreon. And now it might be public now. The United States is really reliant on Russia's gratuity. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. She generates a lot of energy through nuclear power plants, right? And Russia has the most efficient fuel for nuclear power plants. And it's the cheapest. Not only is it efficient and the most efficient, it's the cheapest, right? And this fuel, even through the sanctions, even through the Ukrainian war, even through all of this stuff in Syria and Palestine, Russia continues to sell this fuel to the United States. And guess what? There's an estimate that this fuel that Russia sells to the United States produces between 20 and 30% of all U.S. energy. Now, let's just take the low end, since we say 20 to 30. Let's just go right in the middle and say 25%, right? That's a quarter of U.S. energy. Now, we look at the oil and gas that the United States is buying from Russia. Let's just say 5%. So now we're at 30%, nearly 1/3 of the energy. And nobody says anything. And you want to wage war with people that you buy fertilizer from, sunflower oil from, oil and gas and uranium, so that you can power your nuclear power plants. Does the policy, when you look at it, does the policy of the United States make any sense? No. Why? Because we're run by berserker people. That's why. Let's see. MZ says this is why cost of living needs to die. Let's see. Let me go over the Odyssey 1 second. Hold on 1 second. That's behind a little bit over there. All right. What is that? Okay. No, it's not. Not behind. Okay. Let me go back to Rumble. All right. It says the content. Oh, all right. Hey, flying crocodile is off the chain. Listen what he says, and then put the people who were in office at one time, and you'll understand who he's talking about. He says the Content Foundation made a lot of money in donations at the same time. Funnily enough, oh man, flying crocodile is off the chain. I understand exactly who you're talking about too. Let's see. And Medi says, at Flying Crocodile 46, oh yeah, and then sold the technology that allowed China to have a nuclear ballistic missile program. Right now, Russia and China are putting military satellites in orbit. Now, here's the thing with that too. China had a ballistic missile program. They weren't at advanced, but they had intercontinental ballistic missiles. They've had them since the 60s? The 60s? They didn't have many. But here's the thing. Now the United States lag behind both Russia and China and North Korea in ballistic missile technology. And hold up. And it can be an argument made that they now lag behind Iran in ballistic missile technology. Iran has a hypersonic missile. North Korea has a hypersonic missile. China has a hypersonic missile. Forget how Iran and North Korea may have acquired it. They haven't. Russia has a hypersonic missile. The United States just tried another hypersonic missile test that didn't make the news. 2 of them. And guess what happened? Okay? 2 of them. All right? Let's see. This thing is jumping. Medi says, salute. Absolutely. Mr. Clean Ali is in the building all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. Check it in. Shout out to Mr. Clean Ali. All right, thank you. Let's see. Man, this has been a good chat. Listen, I'm about to get off the air for a minute because I have a few things I have to do. But listen, I want you all to hit the like button, subscribe, and like. Hit the like button, subscribe, and like. Please do that. It's very important that you do that. They continue, and I know you guys have been watching how my subscriber count keeps going up, and then once it's up, it drops down. I told you they were doing that to me. I told you to pay attention to that. Every time 10 come, it'll drop down. Every time. Boop. Like this. I told you to keep watching that and you would see what. Oh, Diane O'Neill is in the building, says, we started to get rid of our factories and sending it all to China. We even sent companies broke if they did not, if they did not comply. As a matter of fact, let me highlight this. Maybe I'll stay on for a few more minutes because the conversation is real good. What would be? I'm trying to get back because this thing is jumping. Hold on one second. Joel, I see Joel. I'm trying to get his thing up. All right, Joel put something in there. It's jumping, everybody. So if I miss your up there, I'll go back trying to see. Joel says, at Rashid, did they ever find that F-35 jet they claim went missing? They said they did. They said they did. I want to know how you lose a jet. That's what I want to know. But I started doing an article on that. I didn't do it because the person that gave me some insight on it told me right when I started writing, contact me. What are you doing? I said, oh, I'm about to write some of the information that you gave me. They said, no, don't. This is just between you and I. So honoring what they said, I didn't say anything, and I'm still not saying anything right now about what happened to that jet. All right. But let me tell you, the official story is crap. Crapola. I'm telling you this. It is crapola. Believe that. All right. So, and I'm not saying I got all these sources. I'm just telling you the people that I deal with told me that it's crapola. All right. And they've been more than stellar in their record of telling me certain things, and I do articles on it, and it comes to be like the J10C. I wrote on that 2 years before it came into being. When the J20, I wrote on that before it came, and wrote about the engines that were going to be on there, and how the United States kept believing that China can produce the engine, and China was getting ready to shock them. I wrote on a lot of that stuff prior to it being officially written on in major news things. You can go see it. The track record is right there. But let's see. And I'm not a writer. I do this because of the truth. I don't do it because I like to write. I write, but I'm not a writer. That's Flying Crocodile says gold was less than $40 an ounce then. Now it's almost $2,000 an ounce, and is at least 40% undervalued through COMEX paper gold manipulations. The buying power of the dollar is now less than 2 cents from 1971. Okay, since you know that, let me keep this up here for a minute. Read that, everybody, what he just said. And Richard Nixon wanted you to believe that he's doing you a favor. So when these events start happening, you think that they're just happening right there in the moment. You don't know that this is long in the making. From all of this stuff, even to them removing the Glass-Steagall Act and all of this other stuff, all of this stuff is instrumental in the collapse of the dollar. All of this stuff with the wars and the antagonizing of other nations, the assassination, all of that is the same with this dollar thing. I want to recommend a book. I have it on my shelf in there. What is it called? Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I want you all to check that book out. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. In that book, the author, he was an economic hitman. And he goes and tells you the workings and inner dealings of what they do with how the IMF, they use the IMF and the World Bank to keep nations poor. And how the United States and the UK and the European Union nations and stuff work together to keep everybody suppressed. Okay, this I'm telling you. And if you don't abide by them, they'll bribe you. If the bribe doesn't work, they'll warn you. If they don't, then they'll try to kill you. If the assassination doesn't work, then they'll finally wage war on you. He goes into all of this stuff. I'm telling you, you got to read that book. That's a must read. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. You got to read that. Let's see. Mehdi says exactly. Regulations were made that allowed all of this to happen. Right. They removed all of the regulations that held that stuff in check. Greed, corruption, all of that stuff caused that. But it's not China's fault. It's not Russia's fault. Right? That is almost like if your house is in need of repair and China says, hey, if somebody comes over and fix my door, my house, but you know your house needs repair right now. And China says, hey, I'll give you this. And instead of you urgently repairing that, you go over there to make that quick money and you come back and your house collapse. Is it China's fault? No, it's yours. Because you knew the state of your house. You were an insider, so nobody had to tell you the dire situation of the house. Ignoring it didn't turn it to a better situation. You understand? So it's not China's fault. Flying Crocodile says gold is going to 3,700 or higher next year. Listen to me good. When this dollar collapsed, we used to say this, me and Rashid used to say this all the time. When the dollar collapsed, the dollar will be looking up to the Mexican peso. And you know that's a fall like none other. What is it, like 50 pesos or 80 pesos to a dollar right now? Something like that. So when the dollar collapses, and if it's looking up to the peso, that tells you the dire situation that the American economy is going to be in it. And on top of that, I want you to think about this as the collapse continues. You got to look at the state of America. All right. We look at Greek and we say, oh, the Greeks are in bad shape. We look at this country, we say this country is in bad shape. We look at everybody else except the United States. There's something that you must understand about the situation of the United States. When the collapse occurred, she will not be able to extricate herself from it because there's too much debt out there. Nobody will be able to come to her aid because there's more debt than all of the economies combined. And check this out. It will become so dire because she has alienated nations who would have been her friend. She's alienated enemy and friend alike. And on top of that, her production capacity to get through it is non-existent. I remember when I was growing up, you could walk through the neighborhood, there were fruit trees growing everywhere. It's not like that nowadays. Almost everybody you knew had a little side garden in their house, in their yard or something like that. That's not like that. People don't know how to grow stuff, and they shun farming nowadays. So that's going to make it that much worse. And then on top of this, think about this for a second. In a nation that used to be the pride of the world, right? A nation that used to give dictates to everybody else and tell the people to jump and they just ask how high. A nation that would spend without thinking about the cost of spending and had abundance of everything. America was so rich and wealthy. I'm going to tell you how wicked she is. She was so rich and wealthy that to keep prices high, some of you will not believe this, but you can go Google what I'm saying. To keep prices high, she would fill cargo ships up with product and merchandise, send them out to sea and sink them. Most of you are not even aware of that. That is to keep the price high at home. America would sink cargo ships full of goods to keep the prices high at home. Now, when this dollar collapses and you're not able to draw on farm or industrial base, you have nothing, you don't produce nothing, so it's going to be hard for you to keep that dollar going. You sanction everybody, so now everybody's going to sanction you. And the mentality of the people is that America is rich, America is powerful, America is this. But when she has enjoyed being the eye of the nation, the world, everybody looked up to her. And this is no longer the case. And she no longer has abundant superstores and abundant markets and abundant goods, and nations are sanctioning her, right? And her debt is holding her down. This is going to make anger rise up in the streets because the people are going to be thinking about the freedom and the things that they used to have and the life that they used to enjoy. And this is going to cause revolution. And everybody is going to start trying to carve up America to try to fashion after their own thoughts. If you think I'm lying, what's going on with Joe Biden? What's going on with Donald Trump? What's going on with these other people that are going? Some people are openly saying secede from the union. Think about when things get that much worse. We're looking at something worse than Mad Max, because they're going to want to fashion their thoughts, a country after their thoughts. This is going to be gangland. This is what it is. It's collapsing right in front of us, and we're looking at it, and most people are not even aware of it. Listen, everybody, it's been real. On that note, I go out the same way that I always come in, with love and peace in my heart for each and every one of you, but know that the true and living God will always love you better. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. And remember, do right because it's right to do, not because somebody's over you watching you, because God rewards those who do right from their heart. Hey, mama, you taught me right, and I'm showing the world that you did. I love you, baby. You know you steal my heart. I'm out of here. Deuces, everybody.